Hey everyone, Temporal here, and today I am going to review the match between United Kingdom and France in the Overwatch World Cup. And when I say the match, I really just mean Route 66. I think this one makes sense to do now simply because we've on the channel covered goats recently, and we've also specifically gone into Sombra goats. And as we're going to see here, France does break out Sombra goats, plus both of these teams run a lot of goats. So here's where we go.
What? I'm not actually doing that. That's me channeling what I imagine most of the UK audience would be like right now.
Let's let this roll just a little bit to make sure our comps are real.
I'll give you a spoiler to that one. You're not hearing them in this stadium. It's all about the French roster. It's all about France.
Well,
so far it looks like mirror match Zenyatta goats. That's not surprising. Europe in general does like their Zenyatta goats. Them coming to that conclusion isn't crazy, since it was such a strong tank region in general, and Zen goats does best in the mirror of the three types of goats fans. And when I say three types of goats fans, I mean of the three flex supports you can run there: Zen, Ana, or Moira. So let's give this just another moment. France is starting out defending. And if I'm right, yeah. So they are, let's take a look at this. So they came out and France went ahead and shifted into train car here. You'll notice we saw people go down there, but we did not see Nico, who's their diva, go down there. That's because diva's loud. When people are doing this type of ambush, I like what France is doing here, where they're leaving their diva behind. She has to be close enough that she can come in, preferably without using boosters, but this increases the odds of success because they aren't using those super loud diva footsteps and she can't crouch there. On the other side, UK, they'd originally shown Zen goats there. They've made some adaptations. Let's let this roll down to start time, though, before we comment further.
Like the UK kind of had it figured out. Didn't get any opening kills, so they were charging forward. But he said, save the best till last. You come at me, you better not miss. They missed.
So here we've got Soon. Soon's, of course, holding corner, trying not to be seen, but he's also doing the third-person peek, so it's good to have him furthest up. He can peek the corner, and his shield is less likely to clip through or be as obvious compared to Reinhardt's shield, so he's got the best vision here without giving them away. And let's give them the 5 seconds.
The whole team. That's a dream scenario. That's going to be a clip to look at for years to come.
Let me just tidy up that quick for you.
Okay, they're out. So now let's talk about this comp. So UK, they've lost 3 maps to France already, and France has mostly been running goats, so they haven't been winning the goats matchup. Excuse me. Sorry, lingering cough. So now they're rolling out with something that's kind of interesting. They're running out with 3 dive tanks plus 3 supports. So it's like a divey version of goats or something like that. Obviously, it's pretty low damage running these 3 tanks. Briggs has some nice ability damage, but not great normal damage, so they're really counting on getting that focus fire and getting a quick backline kill on a support for this comp to do any work. This comp has to wipe out Zenyatta, Soon, or Wins on their dives, on the initiation, for it to win in any sort of fight that happens between them. That said, they do have much stronger initiation than France's Goats team has. And that's because they do have, obviously 3 different good leap engage abilities here. If they get caught by this sneak attack here, they should just get rolled. They'll be able to jump out with their tanks, but their supports won't get out fast enough, and they'll just get rolled. So this, blindly, because I don't think France knew UK was going to run this, could be a really good opening hold right here. This could very quickly win them the fight by getting a support kill or 2. So let's see what happens.
King, you better not miss.
So they come out, and they're not really passed yet. I actually think, we can rewatch just a second.
Let me just tidy up that quote for you. Come to King.
So they're not really past the train car at all when France rolls out here. So I think this is just a half a second too early. It's possible that they were spotted and had to do it. Christopher will have some pretty good third-person view. In ball mode, you've got a pretty good third-person view, just like you have a pretty good third-person view when you're holding a shield. So they may have been seen and had to do this. So I'm being super nitpicky with the timing here, but the only one who's really past them is Mikey. Now, if they run over Mikey A, this can be a one fight, but I haven't seen movement abilities come out of any of these three. I do believe I heard Cruz amp out, so they won't be able to get Boombox out easy there. So if these guys try to run over Mikey A or Boombox, they could do pretty well here.
Yes. Mr. Omar Little
And it looks like they want Mikey, but then Mikey gets booped. I believe Soon booped him. That's an unfortunate decision.
From the wire, it's no longer down 2.
This is good. So we saw, at least initially, UK was taking advantage of their height, their mobility, to have their Winston up here cleaving and their Diva up here shooting. Their Diva could turn and matrix out these guys as they backed out. That was better. Kib dropping, and there's nothing over here that could have hooked him, so he dropped. It's possible he got knocked a little by a Rhinehammer, but Nico didn't bump up there and bring him down. So him dropping, I don't like that. He should have just stayed up there and cleaved. He could have built up some nice ult charge. Yes, it wasn't going to be lethal, but it would have been a nice distraction while his supports left, because this hold, if it just buys them 5-6 seconds, it's kind of a failure. If they have to leave after buying 5 or 6 seconds, that's not going to do anything for them. Or if they pull that card and then give you all the time in the world to set up a dive and you take all the angles you want, that's not going to work either. So Kib falling down here, pretty big deal.
To the wire, but for both teams, they want to end strong. Smex finding the opening kill onto Poco. Both teams running out with a 3-3 to start things off here. Christopher though, actually bringing out the dope.
It's not going to work. Pauses it. Okay, let's try that one more time.
With a 3-3 to start things off here. Christopher.
So it looks like you can already tell this comp is going to. You can already tell this is going to give France some trouble based on their Discord priority. They've put the Discord orb on Christopher, and it's true he was one of the deeper members. Unko may have felt the need to do that to protect himself. But Hammond in general, when dealing with Hammond, there's kind of a certain way of doing it. You can either ignore the Hammond and deal with the other threats, and that's what I recommend you do if you only have one stun. And when we look over at France here, France does only have one stun. They have Bash. I suppose you could get a stun out of a pin, but really they have one on-demand stun in Bash. If you have a second stun, like a flashbang or a hook or something like that, focusing Hammond becomes a great option. I recommend you do it. Catch him with your first stun, burn him, discord him, hit him with the second stun, finish him off, and he's feeding. You can do the same thing with a hack because it's it's not quite a stun, but against Hammond it's almost as good. It lasts so long though that it's as good as multiple stuns. If you only have one stun though, even with the discord, you're generally not going to be able to burn him down in time. So he's doing his job as a tank by eating that bad shit, discord, a stun, etc., that the rest of his team doesn't want to eat and getting out alive. And he's going to do this right here. So this hints that we're going to see some pretty poor handling of Hammond as a tank, a poor understanding of what his job is and how you should handle him from France here. But let's see what happens a bit more.
Actually bringing out the dopes, we've been calling it, on the side of the UK, bringing dive tanks to the mix rather than things like the Rhine, the Zarya, and the Diva.
I think they're willing to throw the kitchen sink at this one.
So
just show what they can do, and
that's not too surprising there. As we saw, France was kind of having to back up low health. These guys were grinding them out pretty well here, and you don't want that to happen. These guys need to win the brawl quickly. Well, they don't need to win the brawl quickly against this comp, but they did need to take out the brawl. When they didn't get their initial surprise kill or two there, it was pretty obvious how this was going to turn simply because of the advantages UK had, whether that be from high ground, range, etc. France was doing the slow backup. That said, it's not a complete failure. We see we're down to 3:31 on the clock, and by the time we get around corner, it's probably going to be closer to about 3 minutes, maybe 3:05, something like that. So it's not perfect, but you've burnt a minute off the clock. Admittedly, you've given up some pretty good ult charge to get that minute off the clock. Not completely lopsided, but definitely in UK's favor.
Good work from so far. Cruz, Boombox, Kib picking up kills. That payload will get around that first corner. France might have to rethink what's going on here if they want to have that delicious 4-0.
And this is where we saw a fantastic series, I believe earlier on today, going all the way to
so they're at 3:15 now.
Very, very close.
And about here is the earliest you'd possibly consider taking a fight if you weren't doing the hold them at spawn thing, and they were at about 3:10. So that turns out right. They burnt about a minute off the clock. I'm not sure it's quite worth that ult charge, but it wasn't terrible. So that was a poor rotation. Let's see if we can rewind and catch that. So Goats thrives on being tightly clumped. Maybe this is an adaptation from France of going, oh hey, Hammond gets too much pile driver damage and he gets too big adaptive shields if we group tightly. So we don't want to clump so much, so we'll let our supports play a bit further back and our tanks play forward. If so, that's a mistake, and as you can see here, it's being punished. Your supports now don't have help, so Christopher is getting to pressure them out relatively for free here. France didn't rotate tightly. We all know the correct response here would be, hey, we lost the fight on A. We lost the fight on A relatively cleanly, so back up into second, back up all the way to your spawn if you have to get everyone back together, and then push up as a group. This comp loses too much value when it's spread out. That said, we should also talk about what happened here. Soon has correctly realized that, hey, less important than Briggs in this comp right now would be Sombra, so he's made that swap. And what I'd really like to see here is Soon just decimate this comp by deciding that he can just mark Christopher. And the way to do that is to sit outside of his death ball stealthed, because these guys should all be grouped up tight. So he wants to be a little bit away from them. So if Unko was the center of our death ball, Soon could be over here, for example. And then whenever Christopher swings up, swings in, etc., he can unstealth and hack him, and he'll actually get it off mid-pile driver before he hits the ground, and then he doesn't get his pile driver damage, he doesn't get his adaptive shield, and he's got that longer stun that we talked about. So he can just get destroyed, and then you're in a 5v6. Since these guys are so low damage in general, they aren't going to be able to confirm a kill, burst a kill, down, trade for Christopher while Christopher's hacked. So that would make things very easy for France, and this is a great swap if France knows how to play it.
Towards them in that nice hamster ball.
Moving around, doesn't have enough momentum to get any knockbacks soon.
Lose wins there.
Gonna find out wins already. Taking them out, move.
You're just being distracting, that's fine.
There comes the Transcendence out from Unko.
They're using Trans, they can afford to, they're up in ultimates. Okay, let's see that one more time there. Okay, so UK used Trans, Unko answers with Trans, and then it looks like right as Boombox's transcends, rather than get caught in a power play situation where France has a temporary invulnerability advantage on them, and Transcendence is invulnerability. In these two, there's no anti-nade, there's no high burst, so Transcendence is invulnerability unless you position terribly. They didn't want to have that invulnerability disadvantage. They had an ult advantage, so Cruz went ahead and sound barriered. Looking at everyone's health, probably wasn't necessary yet. Looks like Boombox has his shields, his regular shields, you can see that lighter blue on top of the sound barrier shields. So I think Cruz jumped the gun just a touch there. If France can stay in this fight and get wins of sound barrier up, that'll bode pretty well for them. And the ults on this side are less strong in general, so those support ults really matter.
Gonna be the answer from Team UK. Look how much shielding Christopher's got. His HP just decreasing down. I can't tell about.
Works out for them though. They were able to do enough work during their sound barrier overlap there, find a few kills, so they're going to go ahead and keep this
the sound
moving.
barrier at all, but look at the wipe coming out from Team UK. They're coming back into this match with a vengeance.
Changing the rounds up as well. Unko going across onto the Moira, and Soon is sitting there in this 3-2-1 composition.
So France shouldn't get another fight here. They're going to have to accept that first is gone, and let's let this roll through. Soon's just doing Soon stuff. Old Tracer habits die hard, stalling the cart. He's done less of that lately, but that's fine.
40 on the clock.
Let's let this. Okay, so now we're looking at this here. This is kind of our new team fight, and when we look at the ults that we have in play and how these two teams want to win, I still generally would like Soon to sit a little outside of his death ball and just hack Christopher on the way down. I suspect I'm going to be saying that a lot, as it takes him a while to figure that out. But this time he has the MP. So My preference here, given that we just saw Cruz and Boombox use their ultimates and we know they aren't available, we're not worried about EMP getting countered by one of those ults coming in to cover the EMP, protect them during their vulnerability. I'd actually just catch their dive. You can set up nice and close like they did here, and then when they come in with their 3 tanks, you can EMP if you want to scoot the corner and maybe catch a support 2, maybe catch 2 supports even. That's great, but if you catch the 3 dive tanks with your EMP, these guys don't have enough healing to keep them up. You'll just be able to run them over, and that'll be just fine. You don't even need another ult. Minefield, that gets disabled by EMP, no big deal there. So the only thing that you have to watch out for from UK is this sound barrier. Excuse me. Is this self-destruct? And that shouldn't be a serious issue, given that you do have speed you can play with, you do have Zarya bubbles, you have a Rhine shield. These guys won't be able to punish if they're EMP'd. This is a pretty easy fight for France to win right here.
1 minute 30, they get their second checkpoint. He'd get through France first, who are holding a very aggressive position, Des.
Keep an eye on Christopher here. He's up to the right-hand side of your screens right now. He's got the ultimates coming in above them. He's going to drop out that minefield. This is going to be hard for the whole team to back.
So we see that minefield early, and we see the minefield slam, and it looks like we did get Wins down some health here. We've got the follow-up from Kib. They could potentially score that kill. Wins does have Sound Bear. He could save himself with that. Losing Wins here isn't a big deal, though. Like, I would, even though you're right on top of their spawn, even though you just pushed them through, you're going to be farming EMPs so fast against this comp that I would rather just cancel this dive with EMP. Still at this point.
Away from him, they managed to make it happen anyway.
I hope he's back.
So they lost Wins. They do EMP. Unfortunately, now they're down pretty heavy on health, and this may not go their way.
The bus driver, as he dropped off all those bombs, Smex using a self-destruct to find Wins on the back line soon. Off to find Christopher. Mikey A taking out Poco. Ben Best, make sure Mikey A doesn't not do that again.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Soon was late on the EMP, so Poco also had to commit Graviton there.
Again in this engagement. A little bit of back and forth, but I think France might be able to hold on to this one until, of course, the Transcendence.
And then Boombox comes through as Transcendence. That's the stronger ult than Covalescence. That's going to win that out for them. So that's expensive. We gave up 2 tier 1 ults on France's side. We gave up EMP and Grav. Those are 2 fantastic ults. I don't think anyone would argue that those aren't some of the best ults in Overwatch. Grav a little less so now that it's not as big. Still a very good ult though. Not great to lose a fight when you use those 2. That said, on the flip side, Transcendence did come out. They also used Minefield. Both Soon and Christopher used their ults early and got a lot of ult charge back. That's what I was talking about. Soon is going to get a ton of ult charge playing into this comp. So here we go. Let's make sure France properly regroups before we talk about what they should be doing coming into the next fight here, because if we have a stagger, that changes everything. So Unko did swap over to Moira. I suppose I didn't mention that earlier. That's fine. He's trying to make himself more slippery. Zen is best in the Mirror Goats match, but what you're looking for is this comp is a nice longer brawl against these guys because they are so low damage. They're really counting on that Discord orb to make up for the low damage, but it's not enough really. So what these guys want is that slower brawl, plus Unko is way harder to dive, and these guys do need to dive since they're using 3 dive tanks here. So that's a good swap from Unko. It's also important because since Soon went to Sombra off of Briggs, Unko knows he's going to have less peel. Yes, Soon, if he's playing it right, can fully disable someone, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite as on-demand and instant as that Bash. It's not as good as throwing an armor pack and having that huge 150 health with some of it being armor swing. So this makes sense as a swap here. I like it.
UK, chance to recompose. Same for the French side, backing up towards the high ground now. Chris is proving quite a pain in the backside.
So he's out here scouting. If he gets knocked down, that's unfortunate because he'll have to back up into third. It didn't hurt to scout, I suppose, but if he gets knocked down, that's going to be bad. He needs to tuck the other way.
On this wrecking ball, though.
Okay, good. So he got back in. They did give up their bubble, but likely got some charge off of it. Pile driver up to 100 damage. He was pretty close to him. So Poco could have gone about 18 or so energy off of that, something in that
Definitely getting in
world.
the back and making sure that crucial backline is being
Maybe a little
interrupted at
more
all
if the
available
Lucius spam was
opportunities.
getting it. So now they're coming out as a group. I like this. They're probably trying to run through and force a fight onto UK's backline. That's okay. It's going to be hard to do because you're going to speed boost at them and you're going to speed boost at them and they're going to answer with their own speed boost. Maybe Soon had looped around and we missed it. If you're pushing them back and they speed boost backwards into Soon, that could be nice. It's still tough because what you're looking at for a backline is Cruz plus Boombox versus Soon. Soon shouldn't be able to find a kill there, even if he has looped around backwards. I don't see him on my screen, so I'm kind of assuming that he has. But he might be able to just because they're distracted moving, even though it's kind of a 2v1 there. I mean, this team speed boosts in, this team speed boosts their support line back, and then they reset up for their dive. Like they should happily surrender the cart, just set up for their space. They already have Kib up top, and then once they're ready with their cooldowns, re-dive before Francis speed boost back. In terms of ults and whether they change anything, we see France doesn't actually have anything in play right now. They're close on self-destruct. They're pretty close on shatter. So they need a bit of brawl to happen. If these guys do back off, if these guys, UK does back off, Nico will get self-destruct. Ben Best would have to hit a meaty fire strike to get shatter before the fight breaks out if they back off and re-engage. UK, on the other hand, do they have any tools that allow them to just stay? I really just wouldn't recommend it, but if they want to kite them backwards, Kib could drop and try to primal a couple of them off the side. That wouldn't be the end of the world. Primal them off the side, pile drive them. I'd still probably just rather do the re-engage though. Back off, do the re-engage. You know they'll be on or near cart, so you'll possibly still have that knockoff available to you, and it's less risky to your backline. Because Christopher really has to be able to set up dives. He needs to know where he's diving ahead of time for him to get off those good pile drivers.
Pin there with a charge. Sombra coming out early for wins.
So they're mostly fading backwards like we want, but they didn't do it fast enough. And you can tell they didn't do it fast. Pause, please. Seriously? Seriously.
Multiple times he's taken out his fellow teammate, but like, yeah,
Twitch, I hate you.
Kill onto Zarya. Their best being stuck in this time, but Poco still Kib being
this one more time.
Is being interrupted at all available options.
Okay, so Kib had 82. We see him swinging for that fire strike there. Looks like he got one because he's at 87 now, or maybe that was a swing on Mikey A, excuse me. We'll never know. But the fact that he is going to get a swing or two here is really bad. These UK should have been backing up faster because him getting that extra swing or two means he's going to get Earth Shatter. And when a team backs up, they tend to back up as a group. They're kind of all going in the same direction backwards, and that does line up shatters. That's actually a good place to get shatters against a backing up team, specifically against that's a good way to get shatters against a backing up dive team. Usually dive teams won't group enough for you, but when they're choosing to disengage to re-engage, you can sometimes get enough of them grouped, and you can get them grouped sometimes without their Winston. So that's kind of one of the better places to look for shatter as Reinhardt against a dive team. You're generally not expecting to get more than one or two with a shatter against dive. Oh, he had bubble. Didn't even try. Okay, that's fine.
Kib being a victim to that self-destruct comes over the top, buys some time, but Poco still gonna find Boombox in the chaos.
Poco does get the Boombox kill there. So this fight inside would generally favor France. Obviously, they have that more brawly comp, and you take away the ability to really control exactly where you dive with both Hammond and Winston in here, whereas Ryan and Zarya are quite happy inside. So we have now lost Zarya and Boombox. And this is important. So because they're inside and France has the stronger brawling power inside, Cruz has to sound barrier. Cruz probably doesn't have to sound barrier if this fight doesn't get forced or taken inside here. This is not where United Kingdom wants to be playing.
Gonna avenge him. Kill onto Zarya. Then Best being stuck in this Hell in a Cell match with Christopher.
But
Just
they did
spraying
pop
those
Soundbear.
guns
They had
down.
Soundbear, so they
Self-destruct
were
seems to be
able
the
to
only thing
win
to
out
take
that
him
fight in there.
As Kid going for the 1v1 with Unko. Fade away. And a little bit of a failed jump, but was it?
Unko, you're not dying on Cart. Fortunately for
Kip
you,
did have the barrier
we
available,
do
but
have
then
Cart
Earthshadow
being
came
managed
through.
by
He wanted
Soon
to,
a
he
bit
probably
over
could have
there,
deployed
so
it
that's
and
not
blocked
just
that damage from going
a
to the back of his team. With
fat
ultimately
bleed.
Boombox being the one who paid for his sins, but the
Really?
UK
What?
still cleared things out.
Why do you hate me, Twitch?
Pushing in towards the second point with a very healthy time back. They might be able to stop Team France pushing through here.
Putting the mines right on the door. There was nothing Unko could do about it. Even gets a D-Mech onto Nico. Where was this wrecking
Why?
earlier in the series, Christopher?
You've got to imagine as well.
You've got to be kidding me. Let's rewind a minute.
Putting the mines right on the door. There was nothing Unko could do.
Rewind another minute.
Where was this?
For his sins, but the UK still cleared things out. Kip did have the barrier
Okay,
available.
so there's where we killed Soon. Cool. So now we're looking at a full another reset from France with the distance here and the fact that everyone is on UK is alive and they're just, I believe there's 2 back there just a moment from rejoining. Cart already has 3 on it. France will not get a clean recontest here. There's 2:52 on the clock. They should just let this go. If they came back with ults, the only ult they'd really be coming back with is Covalescence. They'd be playing into Self-Destruct and Minefield. I don't expect France to try and retouch here.
Came through, so if he wanted to, he probably could have deployed it and blocked that
Okay.
damage from going
Now
to
my
the back
pauses
of his
won't
team,
work. Fine.
with ultimately Boombox being the one who paid for his sins.
Poco should just be getting energy, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah, that's fine. You got cooldowns out of him. Ben Best wants to go in. Interesting. Did Ben Best really want to go in, or did he get knocked? Oh, Cruz is up there. Got it. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that Cruz booped him off there, and he was just trying to get more charge for Poco. Because coming in here doesn't make a ton of sense. You don't have enough of your team back yet. Like, you're coming in 4, maybe 5v6. Your last teammate or 2 can rejoin. You know you don't have ult advantage. If you can get a minute off the clock here, that's fine. But I don't really think you can. Now his team has to commit because he said, oh no, they're going to let him go. Okay, that's fine. Fine, so they just fed Reinhardt. That's not the end of the world. Excuse me. They fed Reinhardt, and then they also got the D-Mech and kill on Nico. I'm full of it. They got lots more kills than that. Reinhardt was the only one who came out. So UK is pushing through. They're taking space with their dive tanks. They have good high ground control here, which is nice, but this is one of those maps where even though there's a decent amount of high ground on third, the point itself narrows down enough that Rhine comps do tend to gain value coming into third here compared to the rest of the map. So France's comp just got stronger, literally just based on the fact that we entered third point here. When we look at ults coming into this and how we would expect them to be used in the next fight, we've got on UK side, Rally, another support ult and Transcendence, and Self-Destruct. Nothing else is even close. And then on France's side, we have Grav, Covalescence, and Shatter will come up if they fight at all. So in terms of how we take this, I really hope France groups up, comes out as a group. I'd still like Soon to just sit near his group primarily and hack Christopher as he comes in. I still think that would solve pretty much all of their problems. UK, how they should be looking to take this fight until Soon shows that he's willing to hack Christopher. They can really just do a normal dive, try to find that kill on either Unko or Wins, and then from there grind out a victory. If things start to turn on them, perfectly reasonable for them to Transcendence. They'll probably rally first, though. Probably a pre-rally here. Maybe a rally right as the fight starts. Yeah. France, on the other hand, looking to catch the dive, looking to not lose a support at the very beginning of the fight there. They can use Covalescence to fill. They probably need to use it to answer Transcendence. It's not as good of an answer. Trans is the better ult and will get more value, but it could keep their team alive. It's possible that they'll use it early to try and force Ben Best up to an ult to try and pocket him hard, but that just doesn't really work against this comp. This comp is too mobile. They're just going to leave. They're not going to let you. So I really hope he uses it more reactively, either to keep his team up, but more likely as an answer to Boombox's Transcendence here, even as an imperfect one. During that, Ben Best gets Shatter, so what they want to do is they want to weather the dive, not lose Uncle Wins during the dive. And then as soon as that's happened, they want to either find a Shatter, or if they need to use, or if Transcendence comes out, they can answer with their own Coalescence. Transcendence is going to cause people to group, and then right as Transcendence ends, they want to hit their Shatter. That's how I'd like France to take this. For how UK takes this, that's easy. They just dive and kill a backliner. If they don't get that kill, Kib is super conservative with his bubble. He can afford to be because all three of these guys have a decent chunk of health. And his bubble doesn't do a ton to protect against much of this comp. It protects a little more against this comp than it does normal comp. Ben swings right through it. But it does protect against the rest of them, which is unusual since no Brig, since they've made the soon swap to Sombra there.
Side a little bit. And the UK clearly the ones who are thriving in this scenario. The Lanimals really.
So we're just going for a swing pile drive here. Got some decent swing damage. Pile drive is a bit too far back, so that's unfortunate for him. He went a little too far before he pile drove, I suppose. And then we have our, that looks like self-destruct and rally coming out too. So that's fine, but Poco was able to quickly get his grav out there. That was Poco, did I just miss your grav? I did. I just missed your grav while talking about ults. That's fair.
Adrenaline kind of subside a little bit. And the UK clearly the ones who are thriving in this scenario. The Lanimals really showing up. Not so much when it counts, but definitely when it ends on a high.
I'm not going to lie to you, Des. I don't think if the UK doesn't win a map.
I don't like this. So they grav Coalesced. United Kingdom used Rally right as the fight broke out, as I expected. They popped Rally right as Christopher kind of swung in there. They also threw Self-Destruct, and throwing Self-Destruct behind them is okay as an additional engagement tool. I'm not frankly sure that you needed it. I think Rally was probably enough of an initiation tool on top of your 3 dive mobility cooldowns. But France, on the other hand, used Grav, which was fine, but not great. I'm going to say fine, but not great. And the reason I'm going to say that is they should have known that UK over here has Transcendence, and they doubled down on that grab. If you're trading your grab for Transcendence, that's fine. That happens in GOATs. You're throwing grav, they Transcendence, your Rhine swings into it, he shatters afterwards. That's perfectly reasonable. But them coalescing into the grav here, that's bad because now you're using 2 ults, and yes, you're going to force out Transcendence with this Coalescence, but you should have been able to force out Transcendence with just the grab. So he's going to get great counter value here if he didn't actually lose anyone, which he didn't.
Here, I think they're swimming back. I think that's the arrangement they have. So
does he not even? Wow. He doesn't even have to pop his Transcendence there. That's bad. That just went all sorts of bad for France.
Dealing with the French aggression very, very well. Getting in towards the third and final point with 3 minutes 15 in the clock, and Poco.
The DMAC on the exit does help because it means means UK isn't coming in with full strength here. But the fact that they still have Transcendence after that, they've rebuilt half a rally. That's really bad. The only saving grace is that Soon has EMP here.
Soon off to the side with the Sombra. They spotted them out.
Let me pause so I can talk. Please? Please Twitch.
He goes in, he's isolated. Boombox very low. Just need a few more bullets. Soon's going to give it to him. Boombox going to hit the deck. Christopher rolling away, but Nico's already taken out Kib. Dive onto the back line. He's going to give it to him. Boombox going to hit the deck. Christopher rolling away, but Nico's already taken. He's going to give it to him. Man, he goes spotted them out.
Okay, so here's where we were. Looks like Smex chose to turn around, and I thought he was swapping to remech, but it looks like he walked out as Zarya. That's not terrible. The reason that's not terrible is he does have two divers that he can still bubble here, and we are approaching end of map territory, and grab is going to be helpful as a way to help guarantee that you can finish out the map with that extra strong ult there. So I don't absolutely hate that. It does weaken your comp overall though, because now it's an extra stationary target with limited mobility. So now instead of Cruz having two people to babysit, he has three people that he has to babysit. And France is going to be more likely to find windows where they can speed boost punish one of these backliners. If they all always stay together, they're fine. You know, they can answer speed boost to speed boost and back up. But if anyone drifts out of speed boost or anything like that, it's an extra window that France can particularly take advantage of. I don't like it. I also think that he'll get energy okay, but it takes away from their initiation value. Like if Soon is really adapted and is hacking Christopher on each dive, which I haven't seen yet, then the bubble as an extra tool to protect Christopher can work, but then you're not getting charged. If you bubble a Hammond to protect his pile driver so he can safely get off his pile driver and adaptive shield, he does then get those abilities off, which is nice, but your Zarya doesn't get any charge because teams just don't shoot at him during his pile drive adaptive shield. There's very little need to. So then you're running like half a character down because Zarya can't get any energy. And Zarya can't use her personal bubble for energy without playing herself super forward, super aggressive. That risks her running out of range if Cruz's auras or the other way it could happen is he's dragging these three too much into danger to do that. So I don't think this Zarya change is good. I think it's acceptable because he's attacking third and wants to finish the map, but I don't think it's good at this point. Um, I'd be less critical of it if Soon was hacking Christopher, but that's not happening. He's not adapting to what they're doing. Maybe he's adapting to prevent it when it does happen, and maybe he thinks, hey, I can bubble Hammond for now and get energy after he's pile drove, and then when Soon catches on, I can bubble him later. It's not great. That said, we're going into a fight here. Soon has EMP. Wins for France also has sound barrier. Nothing else is on the table. It would take a long brawl to get Shatter or Covalescence up. UK has positional advantage. They've got both dive tanks up left. They've got the rest of their team over there. France mostly came out of the back right spawn door from UK's perspective. So they're pretty equal on support ultimates. UK will get their second support ult up faster. You've got Primal Rage, but you don't have anything to combo it with. You don't have a self-destruct or anything that you can throw it into. So really all you're going to be doing with your Primal Rage is separating this comp. And that's okay. If you separate this comp, so instead of diving with Christopher as your initiator, you can dive with Primal as your initiation, and then stage that dive or execute that dive onto Unko, who you can force fade out of with Primal, or Wins, who you can force away from his group. So they could do that. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'd again be worried about Kib getting hacked here if he tries to do that, but he could jump in, bubble, primal, still do it. Yeah, he could parry that hack with bubble pretty easily, actually. So that'd be a pretty good open for them. If they don't do that, they can just do the dive the dive led by Christopher that they've been doing all game. Should work pretty well. Soon can catch it with EMP, but that doesn't work this time because Boombox then just comes in with Transcendence, so he doesn't want to do that. So UK, you can execute your normal dive, or you can have Kib initiate the dive to make it stronger with a bubble, primal, throw support, then actually dive onto the support with the rest of your team. From France's side, they can't catch the dive. They should know that, so Soon needs to instead force it into their back line. So basically what's going to need to happen here is, from France's perspective, they need to kind of accept that they're going to get dove, but when they get dove, they actually want to run towards UK's back line. So they get dove and they want to pop speed boost and run straight at France's backline as soon EMPs them, because that way you can potentially beat out Transcendence there. If you're really worried about it, what you can do is you can actually do the unstealth behind them, hack Boombox, so there's literally no chance of him reacting in the split second to Transcendence, to EMP with Transcendence. So you could unstealth, hack him, have your team push him, and then EMP. And he can't answer the EMP even in the split second because he was hacked first. Your team then runs him over, soon still behind him. That would be France's way into winning this fight, other than a misplay where Boombox for some reason doesn't protect his team with Transcendence. But they need to get that off the board with soon.
Might have another minefield. Very good with his placement so far. Soon off to the side with the Sombra. They spotted them out.
Don't play Sombra 76 soon.
Ready to go. That
Break
really
off.
dismantle anything UK have.
Okay, so that's a little lucky. Boombox wandered up too close, so he was able to catch the dive with EMP and get the supports. That shouldn't really happen to UK's comp, but good on Soon for taking advantage of it. They need to confirm this kill, which hopefully Soon is going to be able to do, and the rest of his team should get enough of a health advantage on, I mean, Smex lost his shields too, but the rest of the team should get enough of a health advantage from brawling during the MP that they should be able to win the fight. It's possible that Cruz gets sound barrier up because France only gets a health advantage and doesn't find kills except on Boombox, and then Cruz keeps the fight going with sound barrier, but you have your own sound barrier, so that wouldn't be world ending.
Man, he goes in, he's isolated. Boombox very low. Just need a
Okay, they get
few more
Boombox.
bullets. Soon's gonna give it to him. Boombox
They don't have a big
going
health
to hit
lead.
the deck. Christopher rolling away,
Okay, but now they got
taken
Kib
out
and he
Kib,
didn't
dive
pop
onto the
Primal,
back
so it's a
line.
reset.
Team UK, 2 minutes 40 left on the
Any
clock.
cleanup kills?
Flying
No,
great speed
just a
sound
fire
effects
strike
as well,
missing.
charging through on the wrecking ball back into
Okay, this is
safety.
fine.
Find those
Let's let you
openings in.
set
Again,
up.
you see the target for Soon is always going to be Boombox, knowing that once that hack comes
You want to
through,
pause for me?
HP left,
Please?
but then a few shots from that SMG.
Please? There we go. So, if I unpause, will you rewind to before the fight?
Coming out of Christopher as well.
Dropping the mine. Smex already finding Ben Pest.
I'm going to have to
That
download
SMG
these in the
person
future.
him go down.
Already finding Ben
Really
Pest.
bad.
And they push
It wasn't nearly this bad when I
the
reviewed
target
the other
for Soon
match.
is always going to be Boombox, knowing that once that hack comes through, there's
Okay, so here we are. We're going into the next fight. We're down to 2:30 on the clock. And what I see is we pretty much have the same strategy for UK, and we pretty much have the same strategy for France. France wants to catch the dives. That's going to work best for them. UK still very much wants to get a quick kill onto Unko. Probably not going to be able to get that kill onto Unko. He's probably going to pop. They're probably going to pop a support ult and protect it. But you can then answer that with your own later sound barrier or transcendence and just kind of go into the hey, let's trade support ults, but we made you use yours first, so ours is better game. That's not awful. Smex is only at 30% ult charge. I do want to point that out since he did swap before the last fight. That's not great gain there. Like I mentioned, that's going to be a problem. France, tools to win this, just support ults. UK, they've got a pair of tank ults. You can actually get some really good value out of these two together. I don't usually advocate running Hammond and Winston together. I am in the Hammond is a main tank camp. But when you're doing this 3-dive tank, or when you were doing this 3-dive tank, now 2-dive tank and Zarya thing, you do end up with both of these tanks in play. And you can, of course, send Christopher up high, have him do his normal initiation, except start it with a minefield, and then have Kib just throw them in with his Primal Rage into the minefield. And even though this team has a ton of health, they won't live through that. So UK could get a pretty nice win off of that right there. That's going to be really hard for France to answer if UK does it right. And the right way to do it would be to push them back a bit behind cart before you do it, take space, push them back a little bit so that you can then do your dive and deploy your minefield behind the cart. So even if they like just hard retreat from it and do get out, maybe pop convalescence and protect themselves, you're at the very least going to be getting cart space out of it, and your Kib's still going to be trying to throw them back into the minefield in front of the cart at that point.
HP left for the Zen. A few shots from that S.
Ben Best shouldn't be in any danger of dying here. That's sloppy.
We'll see him go down very.
Yeah, there's no reason Ben Best had to be in danger of dying there.
In this push again, the ultimate coming out of Christopher as well.
Dropping the mine, Smek's already finding Ben Best.
UK did cover with Sound Bear to give them a power play. That's going to let them get Poco too. Did I not see? Is the minefield why he got so low? No, Christopher hasn't used minefield at this point. Let's watch that one more time. Do they just grind him down? So he was getting tased by Winston. It looks like he eats what must be an orb volley from Boombox while he fire strikes, and Christopher was focus firing him. Okay, so it was a bad fire strike. That said, you do hope that Nico is going to help you out and eat that. Excuse me, Poco now. France has adapted their comp. I should have called that out. They've decided to put Poco on Diva. That's more normal that your off tank plays the Diva. The Matrix usage is just so incredibly important, and it's a skill that really only off tanks learn. DPS filling as off tanks are much more likely to get value out of their tracking transferring than they are out of knowing proper Matrix usage. Proper Matrix usage is just so important and so hard to learn and not really like much anything else in this game. So you really do want to leave your off-tank player on Diva most of the time, and there's only a couple exceptions. At this point in time, I'd say the two most notable exceptions for that are EQO actually has a really good Diva for a flex DPS player, and Nico, of course, had that long history of being the Diva player for Rogue back before Overwatch League. So even though his Diva wasn't great back then, something he's continued to play, continued to work on. I wasn't shocked to see him on it. Now, though, they have Poco back on Diva. They have Nico of Ron Briggs. I don't hate the Poco on Diva. Excuse me. I never hate Poco on Diva. I think Poco on Diva makes some extra sense here, and why they probably brought it out. It's perfectly reasonable to drop your Zarya for Sombra instead of your Briggs for Sombra, and that's effectively what they've done now with these swaps. But I think really why Poco probably came out here is it's hard for Zarya to get charge against dive. We all know that, and they were really playing into dive here. But also, now that you have this Zarya here, now that you know they're thinking, hey, we're making this long investment, it's going to take forever, but eventually we're going to get a grab and we're hoping to win the map with that, you have an extra answer to it with Poco. Yes, you already had Sound Barrier. Yes, Rally might make you live through it since this is such a low damage comp, but now you have an extra answer to it with this self-defense matrix here. And you're not really missing out on, oh, yes, we don't have our grab anymore, so now we don't have our team fight winning ult, but you do still have EMP, so you have one of those compared to that. You've kept your rally. That's pretty nice. You've got some good stuff here. This swap was fine. I actually would say this swap was more than fine, and this was probably a good swap from France. Ben Best dying here was not good from France.
From that SMG of hers, we'll see him go down very quickly.
So we've got Covalescence and Sound Bear coming out. Sound Bear is the stronger ult, plus UK is up one. Covalescence was probably meant to come out to save Ben Best there, because it did come out right as he died. Unfortunate. It does look like Unko's pretty far away, so there was probably some miscommunication between the main tank and the flex support there.
In this push again, the ultimate coming out of Christopher as well.
Dropping the mine, Smek's already finding Ben Best, so we could be looking for more progress.
Not really doing as good a job peeling Kib as I'd like there. He did kind of dive when the rest of his team didn't have cooldowns, but there's enough chaos that he's mostly going to get away from that. I believe that Soon over there is punishing him. Wins isn't looking at him, but it looks like he has to deal with the fact that a Zenyatta is locking onto him, so he needs to dodge orbs. Okay.
On this point, Win seems to be the target for Christopher. Will get topped up by the armor pack of Brigitte, but doesn't stop all the carnage that UK are laying down on the front.
They have enough distance that France gets another fight here, though.
Hopefully walk this payload into victory.
Okay, so France should get to come out as a group here.
team in half
I'll
there
let
by
them
pulling
get a
a
little
couple of
closer
members
to
all the
it.
way back, disrupting them
Kib
with
taking
Christopher
good
on that
positioning
wrecking
to
ball
get some
first
extra
and
charge
third.
on the way out. Okay. So that's an interesting little move there, Christopher. As long as Nico isn't right behind him, I guess it's okay and it's disruptive. So what I said earlier about you generally wanting two stuns. You don't want to use a stun on Hammond unless you have a second stun available or unless your stun is a long stun, quote unquote, like hack. The extra bad geometry here for him, because he's in more of an enclosed space here now, that could be bad if there's more friends back there. We can see through walls and there aren't, but he doesn't know that they're coming out the other door instead of this door. The extra walls here, I mean, he'd have more trouble getting out even with one stun. He probably feels comfortable doing it because he has rally armor left, so I guess it's pretty low risk. I think it's a mistake, but it's such a minor one, I probably shouldn't even be commenting on it.
Coco, followed up by one of the supports, leaving
He realized
Nico.
it's a
Both got
mistake
collapsed
too
on
and
very quickly,
decided to
and it
swing
turns to more
around
6
there
versus 2
rather
in
than
separate instances. They're just trying to keep
finish
them
the
back towards
boop.
the spawn doors
Come
here.
on, Twitch.
And it turns more as Coco followed up.
Okay, so let's look at this. We should be looking at a team fight now. They didn't fully reset, so it's hard for me to talk about this as a new team fight, but it, in essence, kind of is one. But what we're looking at is France has a lot of ultimates really close to coming online. They've got Shatter now, basically. EMP, that's 3 seconds work against this comp to get it. And Poco will get self-destruct. They're at last point, so he's gonna get self-destruct. That's gonna contribute to taking time off the clock. And Nico, same thing, is going to get rally here. That said, we don't have our other two support ults, and UK does finally have that grav, as well as the Transcendence and the Primal that they still haven't used. So the Primal right now, you don't have anything great to combo with it. So right now, all the Primal really means is Kib is not a legitimate first kill target for France. Yeah, France needs to come out here. You can try to focus Kib just to draw out barrier. Like I said, he's not a legitimate kill target, but if you focus him to get out barrier and then hit a shatter, they'll group a little more on the cart, or you can try and get this 4-person backline if one of his 2 bubbles are out, and that would be fine. But Sue needs to trust that his team will do this. Trust that his team will get to cart, stop cart, get behind them, and start farming for this. Hopefully he can pressure Boombox enough to get out a Transcendence. I don't usually recommend that as a one-person job, but he could also do what I talked about earlier, which is do a quick bit of farm on one of the tanks, then go hack Boombox, then EMP. And that would be good because you will get 4+ here with an EMP. These guys, however, are just looking to catch 2-3 people in a grav. That's fine. They should have a really good chance of winning this out if they can catch 2-3 people in a grav because there's no support ult on this side. So don't get your grav eaten. Get 2 to 3 people in it. That is a bigger ask than normal. You don't need 2 to 3 people in new grav. Usually, especially in heavy tank matchups like this, one person dying in a grav is fine. So getting 2 to 3 people in a grav is more than you would frequently need. I don't think that's such a huge ask, though, given that you know that they have to filter out these 2 doors here. You've got some good chokes to work with.
Up by one of the supports,
Christopher did get that stun I was talking about, but he had already arced his path
Nico,
through,
both
so
got
he's
collapsed.
fine. Okay, so now we have that grav, and that grav did get, it looks like, Ben Best and Nico, so that would be enough, but Ben Best has pretty much a full shield. I can't see who that is over there. And Christopher is going to be shooting. So Christopher is over here, pretty much on the same side as Smek, so that shield is getting value. If Christopher was up here on this high ground because they'd preset up for this a little bit better, that would have given him a better angle. He can't be back there because he would have been killed, or he would have been pushed out too much by people behind the spawn. Mikey A, this grav is going to be over by the time he gets over here. Hopefully Kib is in a position that he can leap up above and zap down on this, but this grav doesn't look like it's going to lead to a kill to me. It looks like it is going to do some barrier damage and maybe get a health lead, and that's not good enough for finishing maps. So based on that, I actually expect France is going to hold here. Benbest is probably going to get off a shatter as people are trying to get value out of the grab, and they should turn this.
Collapsed on very quickly, and it turns more of 6 versus 2 in separate instances. Let us try and
They got the kill on Nico. Okay. They did a good job of getting people over there.
get them back towards the spawn doors here.
So we hit the shatter, but it instantly gets answered by Transcendence. They do find a kill on Benbest. Soon hits that EMP at 136. But he's got 2 people dead, and Pokemon Wind's both way too weak to follow up, so that EMP isn't going to do anything. Maybe it helps Poco or Winds get away because they can't be pursued by abilities. He has to do it, though, because they're on top of Cap. Okay, so UK pushes it in here.
Time's up. They get themselves that full complete.
That's fine. They followed up on that grab better than I expected. It looked like they had 2 people there. Oh, I had missed that the Winston was already up there. My bad. So Winston was already up there doing damage.
Got collapsed on very quickly, and it turns more of 6 versus 2 in separate instances.
And Boombox was close too. Yep.
Shot comes down.
Having 50 drops him down with a very P. That's Overwatch on hard mode when you've got 50 HP.
The UK's time back after this map has been completed.
Skip ahead more.
They do it in overtime.
If we jump to there, are we still before the actual start? Yeah, we are. Okay. So, as we can see here, UK reasonably is rolling out with their excuse me, UK reasonably is rolling out with their same triple dive tank setup. France looks like they might be expecting this because Soon is still on Sombra. Nico, that's just a Sonic Arrow. They did an ambush, so Sonic Arrowing the same place they ambushed from. Reasonable idea.
Rolling out with the same once again. Goats, we've now taken to calling it. The other side on the scene, France. Well, they're rolling out the same.
They have kept the comp that they finished with, though. Rather than the Zarya, they are running the Diva plus Briggs, so Sombra is in the Zarya spot in a traditional Goats comp. Same comp over here. Christopher's coming deep here. They can't really dive here. These guys can get back into their spawn too easily. I mean, he's trying to be annoying. I guess cart's not moving, but this isn't going to be a good ult trade charge.
Still giving Soon on that Sombra.
I don't know if Chris understands the element of stealth here, because he did just ride across the
got out.
carriage thinking he could sneak behind France. Yeah, they kind of saw you and bursted you out for you. He's going to come around the back anyway, trying for something different. He wants to get right on top.
Yeah, then you find a quick kill there because you communicated to Smex what you're doing.
Oh, no,
You haven't really done the greatest job of stopping Cart during this fight, though.
And that's exactly what Dotes is all about. It's all about having 3 tanks. They're not even squishy members that you can deal with easily. It's 3 tanks being able to dive into
A hack on Wrecking Ball? I'm so happy.
Down easily. Yes, they may have lost a couple of members as the fight went on, but Kib still being a very tanky member.
So,
the UK managed to full hold France here, right?
UK were able to do that. They found the kill on Unko. Unko, I should have pointed this out, was back on Zenyatta. That's okay, but it is more vulnerable to this dive here. It gives them more offensive power with the Discord, but they're more vulnerable to the dive. So they're going to have to protect him better if this is what they're doing. It actually does let them win fights harder, and I would like it if we are... Ooh, let's go back, because maybe Soon did what I wanted again, and that would be huge if Soon has figured it out at this point. Yes, so there we get another hack onto the Wrecking Ball. That's going to completely break their engage. As you can see, Winston's jumping in to help, and they have to commit Transcendence because of the hack there. Like, they weren't going to get the kill. They were going to lose that fight. They had to pop Transcendence. This is from Kib. This Primal is okay. It's a bit of a shame to pop Primal, which gives you all that extra health while Transcendence is going. But what we're looking at with that Primal is he was away from the Transcendence. He didn't pop it for health reasons, though. He popped it because he wants the kill on Unko. I just don't think he's going to get it.
He wants to pop it in this fight. He's going to do just that, Chris.
And now here we are. We've got our EMP. That should lead to cleaning up the fight.
Buddy. Going to be taken out by Unko. Going to throw those more destruction to you. Then Best and the rest of his merry men.
Soon keeps this going with hacks like that. UK is going to have to change their comp.
Cruz and Ben Best going to swing that final swing of the hammer to deal with Smex. Getting outside the gas station. Probably got one more fight from Team UK in this section.
Team France finally getting the payload moving. Sometimes it can take a bit of time to crack
UK pretty much has to go through high ground with their comp. They can't afford to get stuck in the tunnel.
On escort maps, we see exactly the same story on Rialto as well.
Shout for Ben Best.
Okay, so looking at ults available, we've got from UK Sound Barrier and Self-Destruct. Christopher's going to get that Minefield pretty early, but we already used Primal, so we can't pair those. You can do some interesting zone control stuff by combining Self-Destruct and Minefield. It's not nearly as strong as Primal paired with either one of those, though. On France's side, we have Shatter and Sound Barrier. Self-Destruct will get charged during this fight, relatively early into this fight, because he can just Poco can just run into Winston's face and charge Self-Destruct off of it. That's probably what Poco's going to do for most of this, actually, while he's on D.Va. If I look at this, they have to swap if Soon is properly and adapted and is answering Christopher. If they're not, they can try one more time for their play on Unko. Maybe that was a one-time thing. Maybe Soon's not consistently playing near his team yet and just happened to nearby, so Unstealthed and did it. Maybe that hasn't clicked yet. If it has, there's just no way that UK can win the rest of this match, but let's see.
Ready to go into this next fight. Sound Barrier, Self-Destruct on the side of Smex and Cruz.
So we're opening with Self-Destruct for space. Your dive needs to come through during that, and your dive's going to come through light a D.Va during that. But that's okay, because Soon can't stay in to hack the pile driver during the Self-Destruct. So that could let you get a big opening.
Barriers there, but still Onko's caught off guard by
Okay.
explosion. But Best going to retreat with that charge.
Oh, that was close. Almost had the charge. You're going to feed. Yep. Okay, that's fine.
Still gun him down.
So this is a reset. That was nice.
Push the payload a little bit further, but Mikey A doing a bit of spy checking with his flail. Make sure he cannot back cap this for them.
Soon not yet got towards that next EMP, but they do have 3 ultimates.
France
on
is
their
setting
side
up
with
for their
Onko
next
not being
push.
too far away
UK
from
didn't lose
Transcendence.
anyone, so they're already ready. They're deciding what positioning that they want. Obviously, France can't get to Boombox back there because the only one with mobility is Soon and Poco. He's pretty darn safe. They should have nice cart control. They don't have great ultimate tools at this point, so they're pretty much going to need to get real value out of that minefield, and against a goat comp, getting value out of that minefield. As another goats comp, you'd try to push them into a minefield behind them, but as a divey goats comp like this, you're going to probably need to, you need to set up counter dive and drop your minefield on top of them as they push in. So kind of give them bait to go after, like your Briggs or something like that, and then drop your minefield on top of them from above as they push into it. Yeah. It's not going to work because France just has the ults to win this. They can clear minefield with Shatter if they have to. Not that that's a great trade, but they could do it. They can farm up EMP even before going in quite easily. They don't need to here, though. I just take this fight and accept that you'll get EMP during it with your Shatter and with Sound Barrier to fall back on against just Minefield and them not really being close on anything else. You can just run right at their backline, speed boost at their backline. If they leave, go touch cart. You're close enough to the cap that they have to put people on it, and then you get to brawl them on cart, and they don't have good enough tools to win that. If things go wildly wrong, you Sound Bear.
Either. It's being kind of pushed back by UK. This Doge's comp actually causing quite a bit of bother because the constant deflation of the 3-3 comp.
There we have again. So that stun onto Hammond while he's discorded, but no second stun, no hack, makes that stun a waste. That's exactly what you don't want to do. Maybe he was trying to cancel the minefield there that came out right after. I doubt it. Maybe that was the thought there. If you're using your stun to cancel an ability, then it's still worth it. But Hammond, like I mentioned earlier, wants to be drawing that bad shit. As long as he doesn't draw too much of it, he wants to draw discords and a single stun. If you don't have a second stun to follow up, don't bother.
It's making it very hard to execute what they want to do.
He was stunned up there, still managed to get the minefield off. It's a little bit of an awkward position to catch anyone off guard. Nico with the double.
You didn't need that EMP.
Up on the high ground, then Best going for the charge.
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, they just don't have, UK just didn't have the tools to win this fight. France was going to finish this point.
You can get punished for it, Chris. Pretty much a one-man army.
It's unfortunate that they used that EMP because they really didn't need that to win out the fight.
You got the minefield down, had to retreat, which meant Unko.
Okay. I mean, 33 health shatter. Oh, okay. That's maybe you really had enough to know. I mean, it's gonna let Poco kill. That's a Diva mech, right? No, it's gonna let Poco kill Christopher over there or Boombox, but not both, and you're going to die. I don't like this. You just won the point. Your cart isn't even through yet. It's okay for you to die here. Like, if your cart was already moving, it would be fine, but your cart isn't even through the doorways yet. They won't take a fight with you because they don't want to go push up and take a fight with you when the cart's still holding the doors open. Ben should have just died with Shatter here.
Absolute freedom to push forward. And shot Cora traded. The two supports sat back on the cart, escorting it all the way.
Oh, Soon was nearby. So that meant Poco and Soon could pick up both kills. I still don't think you needed to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Not the right move. So now we've used Shatter, and like I said, Carter's just gotten through the cave doorways there and gotten out here. You definitely want that Shatter back. And now they get to come up and do a real early hold because you lost multiple people. It would have been totally fine to lose Ben and have everyone else just leave. They would not have been able to stop Carp. UK's giving them more space than they need to. UK's giving them more space than they need to, but sometimes that happens when you're looking to set up the proper dive. Ideally, Christopher would already be on high ground here, but I suppose he can use the wall or the pillar to set up his dive even from low ground.
Christopher off to the side, just trying to divert attention away from the main roster. Nico with the stun, going to give him a knockback onto Kid, but he still gets control of that high ground.
I don't love that bash. Now France is getting a little too much space. Not space, cart progress. Okay, now they've earned that cart progress. Just leave. You don't need to. Okay, now you can't leave because you got EMP. That's fine. So the issue there is the cart was moving pretty much the whole time. So yes, France had to invest ults, but you'd have much rather, from UK's perspective, made France invest those ults and then move the cart, as opposed to move the whole time, then invest those ults and get that. So because of this, UK only got one team fight. France is going to put this in right here. Twitch, let me pause. Oh, Twitch. Okay. You'll notice France only got one team fight here, even though they had UK only got one defensive team fight, even though France did that bad shatter up here and then got their players punished. So there was plenty of time for them to take two team fights. And given that they finished the map, and that's not a given on Route 66, they finished the map with time. I think they should be playing a little more for time than they are, and they should be doing more of the, hey, we want to make sure we get 2 fights on second. 3 fights into GOATS probably isn't real, but 2 fights on second, that needed to happen. And what that meant is you could have easily taken a fight halfway up to bridge, as opposed to letting cart get really to bridge, almost halfway half a cart past Ridge before you committed to the fight, and France went, okay, well now we'll commit ults. So you need to do execute your dive earlier there, UK.
Into the final phase. Self-destruct available for Poco, and we've got double support ultimates on the side of the United Kingdom.
When we're looking at this, Ben is up here taking space. Only ults that we have for France are Shatter plus Self-Destruct. It's a nice combo against a Death Ball comp. It matters a lot less against a dive comp. Over on UK's side, we've got 2 support ults, strong support ults. We've got Grav coming up, Minefield coming up. Should be able to get a nice hold here from UK, assuming that we don't get hacked during our dive. If we get hacked during our dive, we're going to have to commit a support ult to protect it again, which we can then win out that fight because we either take a significant health lead during that or Ben shatters it and effectively equalizes but doesn't gain an advantage. And then you can commit your second support ult and win, and France won't have it up yet. But hopefully you don't have to. Hopefully you execute your clean dive. Soon doesn't do it from UK's perspective, and then you either don't need a support ult or you get to use your support ult super late, and Ben then can't commit shatter because his team's still going to lose.
Change coming through from the side of UK. Smex now playing across on that Zarya instead of the D.Va. Relying a lot more, I think, on the potential for those bubbles to keep people alive. Maybe they're relying also as well on the Graviton surge. All the ults coming out here.
Soundfair and Self-Destruct kind of...
Gonna lock him up soon again, taking out Christopher. Bembest outside of this place.
And then after Sound Barrier, we pop Transcendence. So UK is just using support ults as extra health here. And the reason they have to do that is because they're playing a dive comp into a goats comp. And yes, they have a bunch of supports with good sustain ults. They've got Rally, they've got Sound Barrier, they've got Transcendence. Those are really good sustain ults, particularly Sound Barrier and Transcendence there. They let you do that kind of thing, but it's such a steep price to pay to make your comp do something that it's just not great at. You need to be getting dive value if you're staying here.
Trying to fight away the aggression from Team UK as they dive all the way onto the other side of the payload. Graviton Surge coming out from Smex. Locks them all together. Ben best moving forward.
If they lose this fight, yeah. So now they just committed Sound Barrier, Transcendence, and Grav. I knew they were going to lose that fight from when that Grav came out, but like committing that Grav after you've already committed these two into a fight that you've lost, you now don't have an ult economy. France's ult economy isn't in great shape, but they do have EMP and Sound Barrier. And you just gave up 3 fantastic ults to not get a stop there. You can't do that. UK is sticking with this comp too long. Soon has not shown that he's fully figured out how to handle Christopher, but UK isn't getting the clean wins that they need off of their dive on the back line. Unko's being a little better protected at this point.
Take him out, France. Moving around that corner. Supports on payload escort duty. Unko
or protecting himself with Transcendence. Take your pick.
The job done.
As long as the job gets done, as long as the map is completed, it doesn't really matter too much about how you make it happen. Gonna run goats, gonna run anything.
I hope you don't EMP here soon. Like, you probably get the boombox kill. Is your team really ready to force a fight, though? Like, you get the boombox kill because you have armor. You definitely get the boombox kill. Cruz then, you probably don't get the Cruz kill, but Cruz doesn't get the kill on you either. But then you translocate out, and Cruz is probably back to his team before you are. Yes, he's hacked for part of it, but it's okay. Like, it's not bad to EMP a Transcend. It's not bad to EMP a Zenyatta and then kill them, as long as your team can follow up and take advantage of it. But UK are running a comp where 4 of their people regularly play together. I think you can get a better EMP, and I don't think you'll have to wait long for it.
else entirely down to you. Soon lurking off once again by those supports. He's basically
That's not a real detected, in case any of you aren't aware. So it says detected anytime you're close enough that they could see you if you were in their field of view. But you do have to actually be in their field of view for them to see you. So if it says detected when you're standing right behind someone, they don't actually know you're there. They can't see you. Their screen wasn't turned to look at you, etc. And I've seen way too many Sombras translocate just because detected goes off, or frantically run away just because detected goes off. You have to respect where they're actually looking when it comes to whether they saw you or not. Yeah, he's unstealthing. He called that for Poco. That was a good scout. Soon probably wins this duel when he has Translocator up. If it looks like he's not going to, fine. UK loses this fight. Soon did not get the Sound Bear. Poco probably did not get the Sound Bear either. That's okay, because they'd both left to get the Zenyatta kill, and UK is on such a back foot here health-wise. If Kib gets that Primal up in time, that adds more health to the fight, but he probably still doesn't want to pop it. You probably, unless you really last a while, you probably don't want to pop. If Cruz lives and Kib lives for a while, then he can Primal to let these two come back and have it be a real fight. That's a proper way to use Primal, to use it knowing that you're going to survive long enough with it for your 5 teammates to join you. He doesn't just want to pop it to stall. That would be terrible. It would be better to die with it and come back as 6, because you do get one more fight here.
Soon having to deal with Cruz. He might go for the 1v1.
Oh, his clip was lower than I thought. Okay, that's fine. So he had to translocate out, but they still got the Mike EA kill. So they're up temporarily 5v4. In a couple seconds, they'll be up 6v4. I say temporarily because Soon translocated out. And he can't re-enter the fight, just like a Tracer without recall can't really re-enter the fight. Soon can't do more than a little bit of Sombra 76ing until he's got Translocator available again. Good.
You've just got yourself a lonely little kid jumping onto the payload.
So this is what we talked about for how not to use Primal right here. Is team is dead. His team hadn't rejoined yet. They got the Smex kill, so you know your team wasn't ready to rejoin yet. That's no bueno. That might let France... Yeah, instead of a real good 6-person fight here, this is just going to be a trickle fest for the rest, pretty much because of that. You could have used Primal to get a good, clean second fight here. Instead, you're going to die late because of it. Minefield's getting cleared. Ben did that well.
1 minute.
Kib died. Kib popped Primal to stagger himself and then died super far back away from the group. That is terrible. Soon has EMP. Ben has Shatter. Poco has Self-Destruct. This should be incredibly over, and truth be told, UK should not be able to get more than 15, 20 more seconds off the clock.
They're so close to capping this one, Des.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Kib was doing towards the end of that one. I think he was going to
hit the EMP.
Yes, change up to the right.
Self-destruct on top. That's unfortunate. That was 3 ults used to... Yeah, that was 3 ults that got very little value. Will you let me rewind? Twitch.
1 minute 58. They're so close to capping this one, Des.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So, EMP goes off, and we get Smex, and I believe that's Christopher up there. So, that's a reasonable EMP. That's totally fine. You can focus fire down Christopher, because Christopher can't move during the EMP, and Smex can't protect him with Matrix. So, just burn Christopher, because Christopher is the harder of these two to kill, with how Hammond is.
What Kib was doing.
Instead, Poco self-destructs here, when Poco could have just laid damage into Christopher. He was standing on top of Cart, had a great sightline on him, had good effective range for D.Va on him. And, you know, self-destruct on top of Cart like that is it's just rarely going to actually force people off the cart at this. It forces them to hide in the spots around cart that are safe, and yes, it lets your team focus fire during those moments, but these guys already had mobility issues because they'd already been EMP'd. So instead, we'll get some Smex damage. We probably won't get Christopher damage from it. Oh, we're not even going to get Smex damage on it. Okay. Did get a nice cleave there from Benbis, so we were able to finish off Christopher and get some nice damage on Smex. So those two ults, I guess, weren't as bad as I thought on my first pass. It's two pretty good ults to only get that at this point in the map, I'd say, but not awful. But then this Shatter, it looks like Ben threw it. It's a little hard to see with these settings, actually. Yeah, so shattering that way as opposed to that way, that's a big mistake. You've now committed 3 ults to killing this diva. Like the EMP plus self-destruct to get the diva and the Hammond. Okay. EMP is a really good ult, and I generally want more than that if I'm adding a self-destruct into it. But that shatter definitely needed to be on these two. And you would have wanted Nico, of course, to bash Mikey A during it so that you actually got the shatter on those two. Otherwise, there's the chance of Boombox blocking for, Boombox hiding behind Mikey A's shield and getting nothing. So you needed Nico. You needed to have Nico call the timing on your shatter at these two.
He's basically wasting the ult there at the end. He's trying to cause a bit of disruption and try and get a kill.
Because you didn't, they get to trans, and that's going to buy them quite a bit more time.
He just came out to spawn with that
Boombox equalizes trans because he has to, but that's not a win. That's just something he has to do. Remember, we are on top of UK's spawn right here. So that's not like, aha, I've one-upped you. That's like, well, you did it, so I have to. Because any kills that UK gets are way more valuable than any single kill that France gets when we're this close to their spawn.
To get a remake. They can hold this out a little bit longer because Ben Best is going to go down. Boombox taken out by Poco's Kib.
So, like I said, this kill onto Ben Best is way bigger than this kill onto Boombox. Like, way bigger. And France is recognizing this and leaving. So they definitely had a window to win it right there, but they mismanaged their ults.
At the very least, it's not a bad start to have, and this is a very different style of setup from what we've seen. Normally, you see Wrecking Ball brought in place of Diva to play alongside Winston.
Gonna let me pause Twitch? Okay. So now we're coming in. We have one fight left. Or excuse me, we have 1 minute left. That could be 1 or 2 fights, depending on how France wants to take those fights. And what we look at ult economy wise is France is going to need a strong ult to finish this map. That's just how it works when you're playing on top of the opponent's spawn. EMP could absolutely qualify as that strong ult. A good shatter could qualify as that. This team is more grounded now. Smex went back to the Diva, probably for stall, and Kib is over on the Reinhardt. It's interesting. Reinhardt, like I mentioned, in the other direction, does gain extra value when played on third point compared to the first 2 points, so it's not terrible. But now this comp doesn't really have an identity. So it's like Goats with a Hammond instead of a Zarya. And that's just bad. Minefield does not stand up to Grav in terms of value. Hammond doesn't do the damage in a Goats comp that Zarya does. This is just like a weak comp that all it can really hope to do is stall. Whereas this is still a fine comp. I mean, Soon can checkmate Hammond, and even if we ignore the Hammond, Soon can get good value on other things. He can, let's hack Rhine then Shatter. We don't have Shatter yet, but conceptually that's the idea. All those same things you could do with Bash combos, Bash Rhine Shatter, Self-Destruct, Bash Rhine, Bash Diva, Grav, all those things, well, we don't have Grav, but all those same things that you can do with Bash, you can also do with Hack. You don't do them in quite the same timing window because your Hack isn't quite as on demand, but that's okay because your Hack leaves them disabled for multiple seconds. Rather than the only 1 second that you have to follow it up, you just have to trust that they hit it when they say they're going to and throw your shadow or whatever. Hack, it's harder to get, but when they do get it, you now have multiple seconds during which you can hit your second piece of the combo, so that can be more forgiving. So that's a reasonable trade-off. But this comp can't do anything. Like, this comp is just going to lose slowly because they have decent bulk. But even if lose slowly is your goal, you don't want Zen, you want Moira because that's more slow loss. I don't think lose slowly is the goal. I think they're just stuck on a stall comp. But Christopher probably needs to rotate over to Zarya and just play this as a more standard goats versus Sombra goats at this point. And you're on top of your own spawn, so there's no reason not to. That 42% ult charge on Minefield just doesn't matter.
Christopher clearly has a lot of fun when it comes to playing Wrecking Ball.
That's expensive. So we've missed our shatter. And I don't know why we expected that shatter to work. I also don't know why we would try to force that shatter when we have a Briggs. Briggs isn't anywhere on our screen, so there's no, oh, Briggs lied to me about the timing or anything like that. He just thought he was going to get the shatter of his lifetime. It's short enough range that maybe, but you don't need to play Rhine game so heavily when you have... Neither team has a Zarya, so it's just about the Briggs is. You don't need to do that.
Time, just a little bit out of sync with that charge.
Fun when it comes to playing Wrecking Ball.
Oh, okay. Mikey, so Mikey was there. It's just hard to see.
Christopher clearly having a lot of fun.
Okay, so that's clearly a case of the shatter came too late. I don't know if Kib tried to press it after he saw the bash, if Mikey didn't count, Mikey didn't call that bash, but just kind of hit it because he felt like hitting a bash or what, but the coordination there was missing. So no longer is that a Kib, what are you doing? Instead, that's a coordination mistake. That's fine. And Ben Best was just holding right click the whole time he was done because he's not bad at the video game. So this is dangerous again because France had their opening. The shatter got messed up, soon hit an EMP, but even with both of those things happening, and rally's going, but even with all three of those things happening, they lost Ben Best. Now, you do have a light healer setup because Unco's on Zenyatta, and they have decent pressure because Boombox is on Zenyatta. They don't have fantastic damage because Christopher is on Hammond rather than Zarya like we talked about, but that loss of Ben Best is a bigger deal to France's attackers than that loss of Christopher, who needs to swap anyways, is for United Kingdom, who's right on top of their spawn.
The Boombox going to remove Ben Best. They don't have a Reinhardt while Team UK has the luxury of one, but Poco's very close to a patented bomb. Will he be able to get one off and get a kill here?
So France looks like they're going to go for another... They're doing a soft reset where they're staging in room. That would have been okay when they were playing against like the more divey UK. I don't know that you don't believe UK will chase you now. When UK was all dive tanks, you won fights in room, so that was safe. You could retreat into a room and be pretty confident that they wouldn't follow you, or if they did, you would eat them. But now they have their own Reinhardt. They're looking a lot more like a normal GOATS comp, so I'm not sure that's a safe place to do your little reset. And you did have time to do a more standard reset. Just barely, but you did have time. I mean, you did draw them in for a Transcendence, yes, but are you going to do much with your Transcendence? I don't think you have the numbers. Yeah, that Transcendence was mostly a make our reset work make our little baby reset work Transcendence. You'll have a sound barrier, but Boombox will have Transcendence on the other side to equalize. And Smex has self-destruct, while you have Earth Shatter over there. So if I'm France, I know Earth Shatter is pretty much how I win this. I can probably do the throw the self-destruct past them and try an Earth Shatter thing. I don't have to count on Nico. If I see them mess up and use Bash for anything, I just want to Bash Shatter. Like if I'm France and I see them Mikey A mess up and use Bash for anything or at any point wander too far away to protect his own Rhine, just hit the Bash Shatter because it's easier. But if that doesn't happen, have Poco throw the self-destruct over top of the cart behind Kib, and then have Nico mark Mikey A, so Nico can bash Mikey A at the right moment to let that shatter come through from Ben Best, because Kib has to turn around to deal with the self-destruct. Yeah, that's probably how I'd try to finish this if I was France. If I'm UK, Transcendence won't protect me from the self-destruct. I can try and time my own self-destruct properly to mess up yours, and that's probably the right play. When you play self-destruct, I want to be in a place that I can counter throw self-destruct to mess up your combo. And that's fine with me, because France almost certainly needs to use ults well to win this.
On that Brigitte, Des begins the danger zone here.
So if I was Smex, I'd be like hiding back up here over by truck, so that when the self-destruct is thrown over the center or over right, I can pick, and I can either throw my self-destruct back and then drop on right side of truck, or if he throws it over there to right of truck, I can throw it and then drop down left side of truck.
If for Team France, UK might guarantee themselves a map win here in this series.
They wouldn't be too disappointed with that either, thinking about it, but Kristen's been...
Instead, Smex is using one of their only 2 ults with 20 seconds left. So it's not going to, and before they've really engaged. It's too early.
Such a thorn in their side on this wrecking ball.
What? Okay.
Kristen's been such a thorn in their side on this wrecking ball.
Oh, Mikey A, how did you get that far? Okay, so Mikey A was able to just barely get past him and then just barely knock him back that way. That's huge. So now this is important because France doesn't get a full reset anymore. They just lost 3 people. Soon I'm sure he'll be able to touch, but Soon's going to die touching. Or have to translocate and then Poco. Yeah, so Soon either dies or immediately translocates, and then Poco has to touch second, and Poco will lose his mech. So now they have to re-enter this fight, probably down Poco, and probably down Translocator, so down like an extra half man there. They have pretty good ults. They've got Shatter. Poco's going to try to self-destruct, but I just think he dies while trying to self-destruct because he doesn't have any cover for it. So I don't think it is going to work. I think he's going to do it, and I don't think he's wrong to do it, but UK should kill him. Well, before he gets a remech off. And he can't leave to remech because he won't have teammates here in time. If Wins is closer than I think, Wins might actually be able to sound barrier the remech, and that could be big. If Wins can't runs corner, sound barriers the remech, that allows the rest of the team to get here. Yes, I am talking about sound barriering the baby diva to let her remech. But the rest of his team will get it too. They'll just only get about half value out of it because they won't be back in the fight for the first half of it. It would still be the right move. If you're UK, you want to drop your minefield forward. So you'll force off Soon. You'll then want to burn Poco as quick as you can, but it's worth it for Christopher to break off. Unko's not on Zen anymore, so Unko can't come through. I mean, if Unko had trans, you wouldn't go forward minefield, but Unko's not even on Zen anymore. He's on Moira, and Soon doesn't have EMP. So if you put your minefield, say up here, you swing up and put your minefield up here, Ben Best has to slow down too much to break it with his shield, and even if he does, he's then entering this last second fight without a shield. And they have to come through left side. They're very limited in who can come through left side because Poco's already top right. We see him. We'll be killing him. Soon's already going to have Translocator force. They don't necessarily know that, but, we're kind of doing the assuming this match keeps going on thing, which is how they should be thinking. So yeah, this is one of those situations where I don't mind you using your ult for zoning, even though your ult bank is pretty empty. If France gets here and stabilizes, they have the ults to win this. It's just they're going to have to use their ults to get here, and they're going to have to use their ults to get here with a disadvantage. So this is still UK's match to win.
He has to break stealth.
So he translocates out, but he's soon, so he's got overtime timing right. So now they have about 2 seconds, 3 seconds like that. Overtime, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is if you touch it anytime within 3 seconds of when your timer hits 0, you're going to get overtime. So Soon can touch it with 2.9 seconds left and leave, and he's still going to get a overtime wick to start up there. Poco is back here waiting on boosters. He should get it in time, but he's going to lose his mech right as he gets there because he's already lost all of his armor. Nico's close, so Nico gets there as Poco loses his mech. And then I think Soundbear to protect the remech. Oh, that's huge.
They're moving in fast. He has to break stealth. He has to record.
Where's Kib? Seriously, why was he able to do that? Where is Kib? You know Ben Best has to come back this way because Ben Best doesn't have mobility to... Reinhardt doesn't have mobility to come up through left. Boombox covers it with EMP, but it's done its job. They paid Earthshatter to get in without losing Poco's mech and without losing Soon, just Soon's translocator. So that's huge. And now you've used both of your ults. You've used your minefield, which you didn't use far enough forward, and you now have to use trans to answer the shatter. You'll get maybe 2 seconds out of power play value from your trans, but France is now set up to win this. They're up 2 ults to 0, and one of those is a great ult. Win sound barriers. Those are going to overlap by about 1.5 seconds. Power play in France's favor. They get the kill on Cruz. They get the health lead on Smex. They lose Ben. They'll finish the D-Mech on Smex? No, they won't. So they're playing to get EMP up and win from there then. Okay, so Twitch, work! This is important, damn it. So he got the EMP. He uses the EMP. He looks like does get it on Boombox there, which is some interesting geometry, but we can not worry about that. So he's hit the EMP. He did hit Boombox. He hit Kib. He hit Christopher. He does have friends here, even though Ben Best is dead. And they have a health lead. And he did this in overtime. So we did this at 18:34 on the match clock. Has to reload. That's unfortunate. His team should grind out a couple kills. They do. They ground out kills with the MP lead. Ben Best should be back in another... Yep, Ben Best is back. You guys see Soon's charge here? Okay, so UK answers with... Seriously? Twitch! Work! Okay, so... UK came out, they had to put Soundbear into it. They didn't have enough people not to, so they did that. As soon as Soundbear was over, they fortunately had Transcendent, so they're able to put that into it. So it looks like they're going to stabilize. France got Ben Best back, though, so this is a 6v6, and your EMP is over. So that looks like UK has weathered the storm. If Kib doesn't die here, and Boombox, as long as that ticks in time, will save him. It looks like he's got 60 health. Poco shouldn't be able to kill him with that. Yeah, Poco shouldn't be able to kill him before that goes off. So it looks like they've stabilized. It looks like they're fine. France didn't quite get enough. They didn't quite grind enough of a lead out because UK was able to convert support ults to stall effectively. But okay, and there it is, the second EMP. So if it'll let me pause this time. 1835 to 1909. So that is a lightning fast EMP. Yes, he's playing into a tank comp. Yes, we're in overtime. But that is a huge deal because this fight that UK had stabilized is now gone.
show coming in for France. No one's guaranteeing anything here.
They grind out 2 kills into health lead, and that's going to do it.
They've had so many ults come online during this
UK
fight,
just
Brandon
used their
trying to
support
pick
ult
up
right
the
before that
dragon,
EMP,
coming
so the
back
next
in.
support
Looks like
ult
they have
out
it.
is from
Prince brings out the
Wins.
ball, but it's not
Probably
enough.
wasn't
They
even
complete.
necessary.
Looking
Definitely
again on
wasn't
Route
even
66.
necessary. But there we go. So that's great.
They get another
So
shot.
I've been critical of Soon not handling the Hammond correctly on his Sombra. I still think both Soon and France are struggling a bit with how to use Sombra in general, as well as Sombra specifically against this comp. But that was great. He did exactly what he needed to.
In all fairness to Chris as well, the Wrecking Ball was doing work in that round. Again, just constantly getting in the back line and being a nuisance.
And let's jump ahead here.
The supports one duty and a bit of a literally being a Wrecking Ball here. Everyone's just looking for a certain video by a certain famous music artist.
You can just say Miley Cyrus. Everyone knows who you're talking about.
Disney approved.
Well, she was
Okay.
Precisely. There you go. France with a very good final push. Didn't really expect to get towards the end there with
So let's make sure our comps are real.
How UK played on their offensive. But let's not forget again, this is the UK's map. We've been saying all day. When teams find themselves cornered, they rely on their...
Okay, so France is walking out, it seems, with exactly what they finished the map with. Not exactly what they finished it with, but what they ran most of the map on. Unko is swapped back from Moira to Zenyatta. Nico is on Briggs there, and Poco is back on Diva. So those are the only 3 who have really been moving around heroes since the initial swap at the very beginning when Soon went from Briggs to Sombra, and that's what they're walking out with. UK, this is their comp. The only thing that they've really been swapping is Smex jumping back and forth between Diva and Zarya. The comp is better with Diva, and then we did have that window where Kib was on Ryan for the very end there. All that being said, even though I just said Diva is better, I think this comp is done and over at this point. I think you guys on UK's side should not, like, this was your trick, I get it. This is what you scrimmed, this is what you practiced, but you have a time bank lead. Your comp got you the time bank lead. I really think they would be better off at this point taking a straight GOATS fight with France and just trusting that they'll be able to make a good stop since they only need to make one real stop here, since France only has a minute where France will have to stop them multiple times. So I think that would be better. I think France has been showing more and more, hey, they're getting the adaptation here, and that them rolling out with this again was a mistake.
Their map pick is something they've got a strategy prepared for. This may well have been the intent all along.
They can't decide if they're doing close hold or not. Okay, so they're not doing close hold. This is good. So, Twitch, please. Okay, this is good. So Soon is stealthed away from the death ball, ready to catch a dive tank on the way, and it looks like. At least it looks like. That is not good. You see there, Soon is trying to hack Boombox. Why? Boombox is a Zenyatta that the game just started. He doesn't have Transcendence available. Hacking a Zen just doesn't do enough when they don't have Transcendence available, because all it does is take away their ability to move around their Harmony and Discord Orb. It doesn't recall their Harmony and Discord Orb. It doesn't like go, oh, you can't have these abilities anymore. It just takes away the Zenyatta's ability to move them. There's no value in that hack. He's not going to be able to pursue it. Yes, I see that Unko has the Discord Orb on Boombox, but that's a bad use of hack. Hack on Makey A means he can't follow his dive tanks in, takes away a fair bit of ability power because it means he can't use his shield, he can't use his bash, he can't throw out an armor pack, he can't use his whip shot. Those are all good things. That would be an okay hack. A better hack would be onto any one of these 3 dive tanks, and the best hack would be onto Christopher. Even a hack on Cruz is better than a hack on Boombox right now. So I don't understand what's happening here. Like, Boombox getting hacked here literally changes nothing in what UK's game plan should be. Cruz is going deep. Cruz is going very deep, and he's way outside of Soon's range to hack now, since Soon did show himself, so he knows he's out of Soon's range to hack. And the dive chains can follow because Soon burned his hack, it looks like. But they're not willing to. They're pressing W. Christopher committed, and they're pressing W. Okay, now there's the actual dive. He went too deep. I mean, it might not be his fault. Maybe there was a dive call and the others were supposed to follow. I think even if the others followed just using their mobility cooldowns onto the train car tops, that would have been enough to help protect him. A little bit of matrix, plus they get their damage in. And their supports weren't vulnerable because their supports were on high ground, and the only people that could even realistically go after them on high ground are Soon and Poco, and they knew where Soon was. So I don't know if Christopher went in when his team hadn't called for a dive, or if they called for a dive and the other two were just late, but that was a poorly executed dive. It was also always going to be an extremely one-dimensional dive, which makes it a little questionable into a GOATS comp. The only thing it had going for it is that they knew where Soon was and that they knew Soon had hack on cooldown. So that could have made it okay, but everything else about that dive was bad.
Already getting that man advantage, 30 seconds remaining, but I imagine most of the progress for this round is going to come in overtime.
It feels like it, with only 25 seconds left. It's all that question then of, if we set it back on Blizzard World, France managed to make it work. But so many teams this weekend have gone for fights on the defensive side in overtime.
Okay, gets the kill on Smacks there, but he was already demacked.
They just keep on trying to scramble together to make what they think will be a coherent defense. It never quite works out to be the case, which is why...
Coco, you're standing a little far forward there. I don't mind what you're doing with the micro missiles, but standing that far forward so far from cover means you have to use more matrix than I'd like. That's minor, but... Oh, that's a big deal. You bashed and didn't hit him. I don't know why you tried to bash him in the first place, but you weren't going to be able to confirm a kill on him.
Hello, here comes Christopher. You can tell he's going to drop straight into that one. Look at the dive on.
So they went for their dive, and this could be huge. This could be absolutely huge. UK has killed off Unco with 97% of his Transcendence and wins. So France doesn't have a backline anymore. Their backline is Nico, and he's really flexible between the front and the backline. So they don't have a backline. This is a great place right here for them, and France has to pull out a hero play to make this work. They do have an ult. Well, UK doesn't have any ults, and a single ult advantage is a big deal when it's 1-0. So that could be huge, but this is going to take a bit of a hero play from France.
Unco wins, he's going to go down as well. Smith picking up the double kill as Christopher wants more, but he's hacked.
Christopher hacked, that's a good play from Soon, and the self-destruct is then able to get the kill on him because he's hacked, and bashed too, apparently. Probably one after the other, you get lingering assist credit. But it doesn't change the fact that Poco's now used his self-destruct. I believe that was offensively. Was he in danger when he popped it? Let's watch his health here real quick. No, he popped that defensively. Just happened to get offensive value. Good. But that probably bought them enough time to get EMP. So they get the self-destruct kill, and now Soon needs to just, and he is, Soon is just going to try to hard get EMP off of Mikey there, and then EMP. He doesn't even need to find kills during this EMP. Like, it's great if they can, but he doesn't even need to find more than one kill. He literally just needs to buy time for Unco to come back with Transcendence. Boombox will equalize with his own, of course, but with how bad a situation France was in, they don't have either of their real healers up. Briggs is only like half a healer most of the time. That would be an okay way to use EMP. Boombox can't pop Transcendence yet. He needs his team to get him a little more of a lead. He did anyway.
Jumps up high, wanting to go back into the fight. They just need to get themselves
There's the EMP.
There, but the hack is going to shut it all down for them. And look who's coming from the spawn room.
Unco doesn't even have to pop Trans. Wow.
They managed to bring Unco down at the very start with that setup, and it's
France had no business winning that fight. Absolutely not.
It's a 150 HP Tracer. It's not a 200 HP Genji. There's a total health pool there of approximately, I think it's 1700 HP. There is no way you manage to save a 200 HP Zen from being crushed by that setup.
It's too much meat. Too much meat in the kitchen. It's getting the meat sweats. He's a robot. If he sweats, he's just going to fry a circuitry desk.
Go very rusty, I think.
that, and we pops a fuse. I don't know how robots work. That's why I do this for a living. instead of
Omnic
building
specialist.
robots. Christopher,
Perfect.
nearly going in with a power drive again. Believes he's
Perfect.
hacked up that time by Soon. Who's gonna
Probably
start?
didn't even
Straight
need
up
that
again.
sound barrier.
Trying to find both
But
support
Soon hit
for
exactly
UK,
what he was
and they're
supposed
gonna
to.
move
Got the
him
nice
closer
defensive
to the
hack
point.
on Hammond.
Taking out Crew's self-destruct up high. No one wants to be found by.
That's unfortunate. I like what UK was trying to do there. They were trying to combine self-destruct and primal, but Kib wasn't able to juggle people the way he needed to get it value. That should have netted them at least one kill.
That one, but they're going to use one of their own for Team France. Kib so low.
Kib getting stuck in cave. That's not where you go when you're Winston.
Clean up with the machine
And
pistol.
Soon is back to
Quite
EMP.
literally the French side putting on a masterclass for their fans here in the venue. Continuing this
So
push all the way
EMP
through.
and
You know,
Sound
Kingdom
Barrier
yet able
versus
to unseat them.
Transcendence
Yes,
and
they found a few
Minefield. If I'm France, I know this is a pretty good push for the amount of time we had, and it's actually a pretty good push for 229 too. And the reason that that matters is that informs your decision making. When you're the team pushing first in an overtime setup or in an extra round setup, you have to always be aware of, do we think this is far enough? And the reason that you have to be aware of that is it changes how you use your ults. So if you think you haven't gone far enough yet, you need to make sure that you have a plan to win this fight and the next fight. And what I mean by that is it's not okay to burn EMP and Sound Barrier and Rally. Let's pretend it's not Rally. Let's pretend it's something else because Rally has a lingering effect. It's not okay to burn all of the ults that you have and all of the ults that you're close to if you have to win another fight afterwards, right? Whereas if you think you've gotten the cart far enough, it's absolutely fine too. In fact, I would advocate that you do that you all in for each and every fight to try to win it once you think you've gotten the cart far enough. So that's the situation France is in right now in my mind. This is a good push. This would be a stronger push than you'd expect to get off of the 229 that UK would have. So France can absolutely and should all in on this next fight in my mind. UK should probably be having that similar thinking and going, hey, they know that they can all in on this next fight. As such, we should just lose this fight without using ults and then take a good ult fight later. These aren't the greatest ult combinations. Transcendence is always great, but Minefield, Minefield's nothing special. I'd really like. I mean, the problem is they're not going to have great ults at any point. If you still had your primal, you could win with primal Minefield. But it was reasonable to use your primal with self-destruct earlier, so I'm not really going to gripe on that. This is bad. I'd actually like to swap Kib over to Reinhardt at this point, or Smex over to Zarya since that's what they're doing, but I'd prefer Kib over to Reinhardt because you are planning to lose this next fight. You plan to lose this next fight and then to win the first fight at corner on third, and Reinhardt will be good when you're on third there, and you'll be building towards a better ult that's more likely to finish the match, end the overtime wick with Earth Shatter. So I don't like that they've stayed on this comp because Soon has clearly caught on to Christopher at this point. If you really think Minefield is going to be useful, and Minefield can be good defensively for clearing a cart, I can understand why you'd stay here because you can swing high enough Minefield, and he's not going to be able to hack the Minefield. He's only going to be able to stop the pile driver plus adaptive shield with his hack. So I can understand staying on this, but the second you use Minefield, you've got to get off of it. In terms of France, you should all in this fight. The only thing that you're worried about is Boombox's EMP here, and I've talked already in this match about how I think you want to handle EMP. Boombox has not had any great reactions where he's caught EMPs as far as I've seen this match, where as soon as EMP'd and Boombox split-second reaction has transcended it. So you could just do that if you don't think you can get a hack then EMP. Hack then EMP is a big ask. So I probably would just do that. I'd put a little pressure on Boombox to distract him. have someone else have Wins take a shot at him, something like that. Call for Wins or Unco to take a shot at him, put a little pressure on him, and then hit your EMP, just so there's a little more going on his mind besides, oh, I hear an ult, I need to counter it. But an EMP on these guys' backline wins. An EMP on their front line isn't good enough because Boombox will come in and cover it.
Kills, but the spawn advantage was in Team France's favor, and they've kept things going since then. Getting on towards the second point, I'm asking the question of can they full complete?
That's just bad. Soon had no business standing there. So I understand that he wanted to scout, but even standing over here would have been better. It's not great, but at least it gives D.Va more spread so that maybe her pellets don't hit you. Like, you did not in any way need to be up here. You were almost certainly going to get detected. You could have stood over here. That would have been better. It would have been acceptable to stand on low ground behind them without your translocator and then throw your translocator up behind and EMP. It wouldn't be great. I get that you felt the need to get onto their back line, and if you throw your translocator, you could potentially have that scene heard, etc. But you can ask Poco to try and clear the back line, or you can stand over here with Poco. Like, you can stand in this little niche over here and then sneak up, and you can even run right past them once they've gotten their bulky stuff that's more likely to detect you with normal spam spy check stuff. Like, a Zenyatta is a lot less likely to hit you with a shot meant for someone else than a Winston and Devo and a Hammond coming out of a spawn are. Like, just wait until they drop and then walk in an EMP.
66 once again.
Germany did it to them. I don't see why they can't do it to Team UK.
So that's got to be for the EMP. Did he hit it? And he got Boombox. So that should do it. We used Soundwave at the same time. That's kind of overlapped. Okay, so I don't love that they overlapped those two ults there, but I also don't super mind, because like I talked about before, you all in it because you think you've already got the cart far enough. And I agree, you've already gotten the cart far enough. So all-inning with it is just fine. And as it happens to turn out, because you're fighting another heavy tank comp, you get lots of ults from having won that fight. UK, on the other hand, is in no better shape than they were in before. They've still only got EMP and Transcendence and Minefield. They, instead of getting Rhinold charge, which could have mattered and been a big deal, got an extra 30-40% Winston ult charge. And yeah, if you get Primal up before using Minefield, that's cool, but then you've committed to this hero that really isn't helping you for so long. I'd much rather Kib be on Reinhardt, and then once Christopher dies, he swaps over to Zarya or something. In terms of how UK can win this next fight, Minefield at corner is pretty powerful just because of how important this corner is, the space that minefield ends up taking away. That can be solid. But Unco just gets to clear it. So you need Transcendence to come out before Minefield does. And you can hard dive the Unco. You can hard dive Unco like you've been trying, but Soon's shown good adaptation to catching your Hammond at this point in the match. It took a while. And even if you do get what you want and hit that good dive, he's going to pop trans, and now you have 3 tanks stuck fighting in the middle of a GOATS comp on top of trans. And they're just going to lose because they're not just going to lose. You're then going to have to pop your Transcendence in return. And then with his second grapple drop Minefield. Yeah. If you want to try and win it right here, that's your move. I don't think I'd commit to it, though. I don't think I'd commit to trying to win it right here because I just don't think you have good enough ults to really think you're going to win it. From France's perspective, you can all in. You can catch their dive with a self-destruct. That's perfectly valid. You can also throw a self-destruct at their back line to zone them out as their dive comes in and then punish their front line. I'd probably rather catch them with the self-destruct. probably pre-rally. Pre-rally first. Yeah, just pre-rally not pre-rally, excuse me. Rally right as they look like they're going to dive. That's what you want to do here. And then use these two ults to fill. You already have Transcendence, so you don't need to catch the dive with Self-Destruct. You'll have the rally armor to catch. You'll have the rally armor going. They'll either then choose, oh shit, we were just about to dive. Now we won't because we want your rally to finish so that you stop gaining more armor, which is more cart progress, or they continue their dive anyways before you've built up too much armor. And that's fine because even if they do chew through it, you can self-destruct defensively or you can Transcendence.
They've got the rally, they've got the Transcendence, and the self-destruct, which is such an amazing space creator when you need it most.
The side get the health pack hacked up. He did take out Boombox and create a little bit of a stagger for the United Kingdom, but France moving on to
that rally's a little too early in my mind.
1 minute time bank.
What are you doing, Christopher? Like, France is more spread than they should be, so you might not get punished for that. I guess Boombox probably called that Soon was still there. They knew Soon was there because they saw him when he went and hacked the health pack, but Soon could have easily left. I guess Cruz and Boombox called that, so Christopher felt, oh, I can charge in, but, like, I don't want to fight. I don't want to take the fight as Hammond plus Diva versus Briggs and Reinhardt. That seems like a really bad idea. Oh, you want to get the minefield at the corner. Okay, but now it's going to get cleared by the Transcendence, which is exactly what I said was going to happen. That does give you Transcendence advantage, so now you can potentially win it with your own Transcendence. You have to win it with Transcendence right now, though, because if you don't win it with Transcendence right now, you're going to get shattered. You got 2 kills, though. You got 3 kills now? Yeah, okay, you're good.
Self-destruct could see to that as well, but Ben Best holds the line with the shield. Wrecking Ball comes through onto the back line. They need to get behind Ben Best.
And we're slightly closer to UK spawn, so yeah.
That's a pretty sizable distance for UK.
So that's fine, for France anyways. It's not fine for UK. That's way too good of a push for 1 minute on this map.
The Overwatch World Cup. It's going to be the Team UK seeing how far they can push into this French defense.
Don't mess it up.
Jump a little further here. Why do you hate me today, Twitch?
Yeah, just being told he's a bot sometimes might help.
Just tell him he's got to improve and improve and
please?
Work. As always on that trusty line,
we'll
Poco
wait out those seconds manually. Good.
Just going to play the same style that he's playing for the last rounds. Hopefully more.
So from France's perspective, no need to change anything. Your comp was working just fine to counter their comp. You figured it out soon, and the team knows how to play into this comp now. Unless UK has some big style change, hint, there isn't one, to how they're going to play this comp, you have it beat. And beyond that, you're not too worried about them rolling out with a different comp because Sombra GOATS plays pretty well into regular GOATS. Sombra GOATS plays pretty well into any sort of dive comp that would be run as GOATS. It doesn't play as well into like Genji Tracer dive or normal dives like that as a GOATS comp with Briggs would, I say, as I realize Nico's on Briggs. Yeah, so they're fine, actually. They're even pretty darn hardened against dive. But even if they didn't have that Briggs, they'd be in pretty good shape because Soon can disable one of the flankers when he comes in for the dive. Be that take out a Doomfist, that's a huge deal. Disable a Tracer, that can matter. Take away Genji's ability to get dash resets. All of those are a big deal for catching dives, and not quite as good as having a Briggs, but France has both. Instead, they've given up their Zarya, which makes them even better against dive and a little worse against GOATS, I'd say. I'd actually prefer if they were against GOATS that they have the Zarya back instead of the Briggs if they're running Sombra GOATS, but they're still fine against GOATS. They've actually got 2 disables this way, and it's super annoying because they've got their stun combos and they've also got the option to catch you with hack combos. So it's powerful. It's tricky. I like it.
Success than did in the first couple of rounds, mind you. But to be honest with you, Soon, he may be sat as number 99 in-game in the Overwatch League, but he's number 1 to this French crowd. Stellar play on this Sombra to round out the whole series.
So it looks like they want to go for an early hold again? It's an early hold, but it's not a surprise early hold. Wow. That's just them going, hey, we know you want to dive us. We're going to hack you when you dive us. Like, we dare you to dive us. Okay.
Christopher, round to the side, easy. He's got enough height to do a pile drive.
Gonna get hacked and dead.
Soon has his number. Not going to be
This is over.
this competition. The French putting up a much
And I don't mean this
stronger
team fight, I
defense
mean
time around.
this
Nico,
map.
go!
It is very clear that France knows what to do against UK. So either UK makes swaps right now, and they have 2 minutes, so they have time to make swaps and get good value. Smex went from Diva to Zarya. If that was part of them moving fully to Goats, I'd care. Doesn't look like it is. So now let's see, is Christopher going to do the same exact initiation through top left and get hacked again? Soon's on stealth, so there's a Widow and he's hacked. Same initiation through top left and he's hacked. He was hacked before the pile driver, so that's actually kind of a big deal. The reason that was kind of a big deal is because he got hacked in a good position for him, which meant he could just leave effectively. He couldn't be punished up there. And then he was going to have a re-engage window where if he could get healed up, he could re-engage before hack was off of cooldown. And they could actually make, there would be a small window where they could make a good dive. Instead, it looks like they tried to force it a little too much. He did, he tried for the good boops there, and that would have been huge if he got them. Instead, Soon got the counter hack off. So that was better. That was better from Christopher, what he did there. But it is still ultimately the problem. There's not some other way to play this UK comp that, defeats Soon just being able to lock down Hammond. Hammond has to go in for the pile drives, and he can't. If Hammond has to go in, Sombra can get him.
From the crowd, I don't even see anything else.
In control of the crowd somewhat here, Trid. But the UK really struggling to go over the push here. Poco over the top with a bomb, may find one, does not find Smex. Those shields will come through just in time. Soon, once again, he is the true murderer on this team, bringing down Kib.
They're kind of staggering, but I think they're trying to back up.
DPS. She's more of a saboteur getting in the backline.
Smex is up to 72% ult charge. Maybe they can get a good grab and then snowball things from there a bit.
France had this much time themselves, so we know they can still.
But that is pretty much their only window into this, and it's going to require some misplays from France. So that's probably a little more ult charge than I'd expect Smex to have, so it's possible that Smex could get a grab out before they're ready for it. This next team fight, if I'm France, I'm still looking to hack Christopher, because I don't think any of them are ready yet. The options are you hack Christopher to mess up his engage, or you sneak in and hack Cruz just to show them a different flavor, just to not be predictable. There's very little issue with France being predictable right now, though, because there's nothing UK can do about knowing what France is going to do. So France has two options, or they hack Christopher to mess up the initiation again, or they hack Cruz as he's setting up, which blocks him from being able to ult and lets them amp speed boost onto UK's backline, run them over, and get another team fight win. Either of those are fine. In this particular situation, even though you just hacked Christopher to start the fight twice in a row, I'd probably sit ready to do that again, only because Soon has EMP, and your EMP, you can use it to catch and counter their sound barrier, etc., etc. Like if they do their dive and then sound barrier on top of it, you can strip the sound barrier, and you want to be able to strip it off of the front line. You don't want to be stuck here in the back line. Aha, we was on Cruz, etc., etc. It doesn't really matter, because if you EMP Cruz and then wipe out their front line fast enough, you're fine. But really what you are looking at there is that he has more chance of surviving that. Like, they have more chance of surviving a Cruz got hacked, our teams rush them and they can't move out fast enough, than they do of surviving just literally hacking Christopher again.
Still make that distance. With Soon not being on the map, Christopher has a window of opportunity to get something done without being hacked. But that window...
Oh, is Soon not on the map? Did I miss a counter kill on Soon?
in now more members of the
Oh,
enemy
they got a
team.
counter kill on Soon. That changes this fight
His
completely.
teammates.
Okay, 1 minute remaining. France has this
So
much time
that
to
counter
themselves.
kill on Soon is big because it means that they can actually do their initiation properly. I don't think it wins them any fights after this fight because France has all the distance in the world to properly regroup and they know it. But it does mean that they can properly initiate this here and get a quick kill on Unko, unless Wins blocks it out with Sound Barrier, which I expect he probably will, and that's not really wrong with the number of ults that France has on the
We
table.
know they can still make that distance. With Soon not being on the map, Christopher has...
I wouldn't generally be a fan of Sound Barrier. Like, okay, I don't love it. Like, I don't love using Sound Barrier in a 5v6 to try and like buy yourself back in like that. I think generally that's wrong, and I'd honestly prefer that France literally right here just leaves. Like when Soon died, I'd have preferred that they left and go meet back up with Soon and then push up as a group. But it's not crazy to me to use the sound barrier when your team, because you don't care if they get the, half a team fight distance that they'd get from that. You just don't care with how far you push the cart. But I don't super mind if you do it because you know you have an ultimate lead, and if you sound barrier to not lose anyone and then win with another ult, you're gonna maintain, or you're gonna either maintain that ult lead or at the very worst be in an equal spot to where you were before. And if you're in an equal spot to where you were before with less time on the clock and back into a 6v6 for the next fight, that's a win.
Has a window of opportunity to get something done without being hacked, but that window gets shorter and shorter every single time that he doesn't do anything wrong. Shatter through the point. Mikey A gonna be there.
So France was just confused on what they wanted to do there. Let's re-see that.
But that window gets shorter.
The team is like half backing up. Oh, so he shatters, and I bet too many of his teammates got knocked back by Christopher there. So they weren't able to help him follow up on his shatter. Like, he should have had speed from Wins to go help follow up on his own shatter as well as help from others. Sound Barrier came out on both sides. That's a problem. UK needed to win this fight without that grab, and they were winning this fight without that grab. Like, that grab is incredibly costly. They could have used that to try and win another fight because both support ults came out from France. So they could have won that next fight. I mean, you have to beat Poco, but you could have won that next fight with grab, and now you have Primal and Rally. You do have ult advantage, but Soon is just going to... Soon should just charge ult. Yeah, he did. So what I was going to say is Soon just should charge ult before they take this fight. Like, you can literally have Poco do a little... France goes and takes top of gas station as a group. Poco drops and touches point and then jumps back up with boosters. That stalls cart. You're happy enough doing that while Soon gets EMP. They didn't even have to do that because Soon got EMP quickly. So now they just need to heal up Soon. And it's easy. They go put their comp on the cart. They literally go put their comp on the cart. And there's nothing UK can do about it. Like, UK has to go contest it with one of their tanks and they push the back. Well, UK will lose that fight eventually in overtime. They won't have enough healing to keep their tanks doing that. So instead, UK has to commit to their dive right then and there because anything else just causes them to fall more and more to a health deficit. Well, if you do that, you run into the EMP versus Transcendence game. I don't expect them to win that because, again, Soon doesn't have to be sneaky. Soon can just hack Christopher like he has these last couple team fights. Your dive doesn't work, so your tanks win. Because your tanks are going to win, Boombox has to pop Transcendence. The instant Transcendence is over, EMP comes out and France just wins. So if you do not find a kill on Soon or both supports during your Transcendence from UK's perspective, you just lose.
Combo those together. We've seen how effective that's been earlier in the group stage.
That EMP might be everything for them here to end it over. Hacked onto 5 members of the enemy team.
Didn't even, wow.
I
I forget that Boombox hasn't been countering EMPs. Sorry. If Boombox isn't going to counter EMPs, you just EMP right on top of Boombox and you win like that. because that gets you the kill on Boombox and takes away their Transcendence, and you know you win a brawl with them if they don't have Transcendence.
Coming in as the #1 seed to the draw as well, the dream scenario they were hoping for. There's only a few dregs left. Kid force up the point.
Okay, well, that's the map. If you guys have questions, I am looking at Twitch chat here and I don't see any, but I can go back live and answer them if I see anything. Otherwise, it's been real. I'll catch you guys soon.